So, it seems that Gen 9 will take place in the Iberian Peninsula, which comprises Spain and Portugal, and not in Australia as I might have hoped. But that doesn't mean this region will be bad by any means. Since I'm excited for the upcoming game, I think I'll make another video like the Australia region video, but this time with the Iberian themed Pokemon in a follow-up video. Personally, I don't know much about Iberia. I've never been there, nor have I ever really studied the area that much, so I got help from my good friend Alessandro, who lives in Spain and knows vastly more about the region and the culture than I ever will. Welcome and thank you for joining me.
No problem, mate.
So, I have a couple questions to ask. So, what are some popular pastimes which we might see in Gen 9, similar to how we had Broadway in Gen 5, fashion in Gen 6, surfing in Gen 7, and the football stadiums in Gen 8?
Okay, so Spain loves soccer. That's like the biggest sport here by far. But since they did it in Gen 8 already, I think they're gonna maybe do some sea sports. Sea was a pretty big part of the trailer. Maybe stuff like swimming or sailing or kayaking. Even things on land like cycling, hiking, or even racing, because F1 is pretty big here, but I don't know. I don't see them implementing that last one. Dancing is also pretty popular. Everybody knows flamenco, for example, but maybe they'll also implement sardanas, something like that. I don't know if they'll implement it as an activity, but more for the Pokemon. I don't know.
Interesting, and I could totally see a similar feature to Z-Moves with dancing, or even its own component in the game similar to contest halls. Maybe that's what that star in the Japanese logo is referencing. How about some more cultural info?
Oh, cultural info. Okay, so there's a lot of legends about like knights and dragons and the Middle Ages and whatnot. The most famous one by far is Don Quixote. It's probably the most famous novel in Spanish history. Also, the legend of San Jorge, Saint George in England, I think, which basically talks about a knight slaying a serpent or a dragon. But because Spain and especially Portugal are pretty heavily religious, and in all their stories it's mostly about like knights, and a lot of dragons are actually involved now that I think about it. The new mechanic, I was also looking at the symbol. It reminded me of the symbol at the center of Plaza Catalunya in Barcelona. So maybe that's what it's referencing. I highly doubt it though. And about the two logos, actually, they do seem to be related to like an orange and a grape. You can see that in the two coats of arms. And yeah, they are two of the most grown fruits in Spain. After all, we use the grapes for wine, and we even eat them at New Year's, one for each bell that sounds. So we eat 12 grapes. And actually, about the orange, it's very good and very high quality in Valencia. It's also very well loved. And actually, in the World Cup, we had a mascot. He was called Naranjito, and he was based on an orange in the Spanish World Cup. Yeah, but those are not the only important fruits. Maybe those are the tile ones, but other things I could see used for maybe Pokemon or stuff like tomatoes. You've all probably seen images of that festival where we throw tomatoes at each other. And also bananas, because the Canary Islands are very famous for those as well.
A little afraid about the return of Ball Guy with the oranges, but fruits are a very cool concept that we haven't seen in the Legends yet. I'd love to see some bananas, especially with all the monkeys and Grade 8 Pokemon we have already. And those stories with the dragons lead to some really cool possibilities and potential lore. So, how about some locations? Iberia is comprised of Spain and Portugal, so which towns and cities do you think would be included in Gen 9?
Okay, so at first I thought it might have two big cities, as in Madrid and Barcelona. But after seeing the starting place, I noticed they kind of grabbed elements from each city, from every city in like the zone, and kind of mix and match them together. But in terms of like locations, the bigger cities other than those two are probably Valencia, Sevilla, Palma, that's in the Balearic Islands, Lisbon, the capital of Portugal, and Oporto, another big city in Portugal. I did see the yellow building, like with arches, in the trailer. It kind of resembled Plaza Mayor, which is one of the main squares in Madrid.
As a soccer fan, I've actually heard most of these cities, but I lack knowledge of their cultures and buildings. Any further insight?
Okay, so the windmills, I feel like they're a reference to Don Quixote. They are very important in that novel. Some people I heard saying that the big building was the Sagrada Familia, which I can definitely see the resemblance of. I also can see that where the place where the Pikachu is standing, it kind of looks like Parc Güell, which is a place in Barcelona. And the big symbol in the middle, like it's with all the types and stuff, it kind of looks similar to Pradao dos Descubrimientos in Lisbon, mixed with a bit of Sevilla's Plaza de España, which is kind of like a mosaic representing all the places in Spain. So I can definitely see them doing a combination of those two. And even on the archipelagos, like the Balearic Islands, for example, like they were built. There's buildings that were built like 5,000 years ago. So there's some pretty ancient history to be talked about. The most famous ones of those buildings are the talayots, which are like big structures built by using stones, one on top of each other without using any glue. And probably the most picturesque ones are the taulas, which are literally two rocks, two huge boulders. They're big. They're way bigger than people. They're like stacked one on top of each other in the shape of a T. But no one knows what they were used for. Many people theorize it was for religion purposes, but honestly, I think that kind of mystical aspect can definitely add to the lore of that possible region. I am very happy because Iberia has definitely one of the richest and the most varied cultures in the world with all the tribes and settlements that were set there, so I can definitely see a lot that can be used for lore.
So, what about the nature of the region? Iberia is quite big and touches the Atlantic, the Mediterranean, and the Bay of Biscay, as well as connects to France.
Okay, so not many people know this. Everyone relates Iberia with the heat and with tourism and the beaches and everything, and yeah, that's true. Obviously, there's hot biomes like coastal cities, the beaches, the Mediterranean Sea. The two archipelagos are also pretty, have also pretty monstrous temperatures, which are the Balearic and the Canary Islands. The south is unfortunately becoming slowly but surely. It's becoming kind of an extension of the Sahara. It's in a process of desertification. So yeah, it is getting even hotter now. Like the Balearic Islands even have gone into a nature protection reserve, especially Menorca. So it's trying to be kept as it is without suffering from that. And it actually has a lot of endemic species, which means that they only live there. And only in the island there are 6,000 exclusive types of lizards, for example, that are trying to be protected. And in the Canary Islands, they're a bit further away south. They're nearing like Morocco and Western Sahara, that height. They have El Teide, which is like a volcanic area. And it's the tallest mountain in Spain, actually. It's like almost 4,000 meters high. And the hot winds from the south, especially in the summer, also bring in, of course, the heat from the Sahara Desert. And even sand sometimes. So it's not sandstorms we get, but sometimes in the rain we actually get like grains of sand that dirty everything. And I saw Stone Giant walking in a desert. I think that might be Tabernas in Almeria, but I'm not sure because I also saw like this big patch west. So I don't know if they're staying loyal to the biome distribution. But yeah, there's also cold biomes in Spain, believe it or not. Especially during the winter, the country can get very cold. It snows every year, no exception. There's peaks like the Pyrenees or Sierra Nevada that can reach 4,000 meters in height. And yeah, in the northern parts of Spain, they actually get quite heavy winds and huge waves during the cold seasons. And even in the Balearic Islands, which are usually like touristical destinations, even in winter, we can get strips of wind almost 100 kilometers per hour. You can leave the number for those Americans that don't use metric system, so they understand the conditions.
Ouch. How about those buildings that might be referenced in this region, other than the ones that we've discussed and that we've already seen on the trailer?
Okay, so other possible buildings, other than the ones we've already seen in the trailer, like the Madrid and Barcelona buildings, definitely the Talaiotic remains, which I was just discussing. The Catedral de Burgos, the Burgos Cathedral. This one has to be featured for sure, dude. It's the Alhambra in Granada. It's such a beautiful piece. It was built by the Islamic civilization. It's beautiful, super well preserved. You can put a picture on screen. It's absolutely gorgeous. And then the Roman aqueduct in Segovia. which is one of the most well-kept pieces of the Roman Empire that we have to this day, so I could definitely see that used. Theaters, ancient castles, Islamic buildings in Andalusia, the southern region of the country. Honestly, the options are limitless.
So, now that we've learned about the places and cultures, what do you think needs to be in this game for it to be a loyal representation of Iberia, whether that be plot or locations?
Okay, so the south is usually way harder than the north is because it's closer to the Sahara Desert. But since the seasons I've already talked about kind of change the weather of the country throughout the year, I definitely want to see some sort of like black and white seasons being added to the game. Hopefully they add those back. I really like how it changed the atmosphere of the place. And it's gonna be a bit hard to implement, but the distribution of towns in Iberia is like you got Madrid in the middle, all the bigger cities on like a ring in the coastal regions, because that's where all the commerce and stuff happens. And then in the middle, we actually have what we call España vaciada, or empty Spain. And they're just small towns. There aren't that many big cities. And I do want that represented, which I think they are representing, because I saw Pokemon centers kind of look like gas stations in the middle of nowhere. So hopefully they do represent that.
I think that can totally be done. The Diamond and Pearl settlements in Legends Arceus could really fit with the open world style of game by adding another location in them besides the open world wild areas and the cities. Since you live there, I'm sure there's things you dream of being in the game. Does anything come to mind?
Okay, so there's this huge wild area place I saw. But I just hope they kind of fill it in with stuff, you know? A very good thing to fill it with could be like, I don't know, ruins of ancient civilizations, small outposts and stuff like that. I really want to see the historical aspect of the region brought up to light by these games. Like, and just while you walk around, you see this weird structure and you kept wondering, like, where does this come from? Or who built this? What did they build this for? You know, that mystery aspect could definitely be exploited. And reference to El Camino de Santiago, for example, it's a road that technically starts in Brussels, but most people consider it to start from France, the southern part of France, and it goes through the entire north of Spain. And you cross rivers, you go through hills up and down, you go through it's through forests. And then when you end at this city, Santiago de Compostela, and there's this beautiful cathedral at the end, and it feels so rewarding. It's such a beautiful path to travel.
Ooh, hearing about that makes me think of a potential victory road that leads into a very interesting Elite Four.
That could definitely be the case. Yeah, definitely, I can see that being done. Another thing I was thinking about was maybe adding both archipelagos. I've talked to both of them in detail already in this video, but I really want to see them be done justice in the games. They're so similar but different to the rest of like the Spanish territory, especially the Canary Islands. They are so culturally diverse, and I could definitely see them being used for legendary events or rare Pokemon sightings that only live in those islands or something like that. And alongside that, we could also incorporate some sort of camera. Not Pokemon Snap style camera, but like since it's a touristic region after all, maybe taking pictures with your Pokemon while you walk around and stuff like that, you know?
So like an improved version of that Rotom camera that we had in Gen 7. Yeah, I could see that. Now those titles, Scarlet and Violet, they have plenty of potential relations. What are your thoughts and how might they relate to the legendaries?
Okay. So Scarlet and Violet, unpopular opinion here, they are actually not bad names. I actually like them. Not only do they rhyme, right, Spanish version? They rhyme. Did you listen to that? Anyway, but the colors are also super vibrant and they definitely represent the two clans I think the game is trying to go for with the orange and the grapes. And I'm glad they didn't name it Pokemon Orange and Pokemon Purple and actually thought of some other colors. The colors themselves, other than the fruits they're based on, they could maybe be based around the Second Spanish Republic's flag. Though I don't really see that, because in the end, that only lasted for around 5 years. So I don't really think they went that far back in time just to pick that reference. And purple can also be used as a representation of the monarchy, that Spain currently is a parliamentary monarchy after all. So I don't know, but what I do know is the colors are likely going to be relating to the legendaries, obviously. Just like red, green, blue, and yellow related to the Gen 1 starters, black and white, to the legendaries, the colors, or even in the shape maybe with the whole orange and gray deal with X and Y, Sun and Moon, Sword and Shield. Like those also kind of affected the story or the shape of the Pokemon, you know?
Personally, I think the Scarlet might reference a bull, as Mantisaurs wave red flags to anger the bulls. But I can't pinpoint something for Violet.
You know, that sounds plausible with like the bull not being a fire starter. I could definitely see it being the legendary. And maybe the Violet could reference some of the dragons or the serpents that the Knights slayed in their stories. But you know, the possibilities they are infinite when it comes to Pokemon.
Thank you for all the help with this video. Once again, a link to Alessandro's socials will be in the top of the description, and stay tuned for a part 2 where we'll discuss potential Pokemon for Gen 9. Thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you guys again soon. Bye!
See ya!